What if the most iconic foods in your kitchen were not invented where you think? What if one landlocked state, buried under snow for half the year, quietly reshaped the way the entire world eats? Today on Recipe Lab, we are breaking down 10 world-changing foods invented right here in Minnesota, and at least 2 of them are not even foods. We start at number 10, with a lab accident that changed breakfast forever. In the 10th place, Wheaties owes its existence to an accident, a kitchen mishap in Minneapolis back in 1921. When a Washburn-Crosby Company health clinician spilled wheat gruel onto a hot stove, the result wasn't a ruined batch. It was a crispy, golden flake that tasted better than anything in the lab files. After dozens of attempts to recreate the accident, the company finally perfected the recipe and put the name to a public vote. The winner was Wheaties. But the cereal nearly disappeared before it ever reached breakfast tables. By 1926, sales were so poor that management considered pulling the plug until a last-ditch effort on WCCO radio changed everything. On Christmas Eve, an all-male quartet sang the first-ever cereal jingle, "Have You Tried Wheaties?" The catchy tune rescued the brand, sending sales soaring wherever the jingle aired. Soon, Wheaties was sponsoring athletes and radio serials, pioneering the link between breakfast and sports heroes. From one spilled batch, Minnesota launched not just a cereal, but the entire playbook for food marketing as we know it. Bisquick began with a frustrated train cook and a chemist's curiosity in Minneapolis. Carl Smith, after tasting lightning-fast biscuits on a cross-country sleeper car, wondered if the secret could be bottled. Back in the General Mills lab, he and his team cracked the code. A shelf-stable blend of flour, lard, salt, and baking powder that let anyone whip up biscuits in minutes. No rolling pin or farm kitchen required. Launched in 1931 with a splashy campaign promising 91 uses, Bisquick sparked a backlash from professional bakers who called it the end of real baking. But home cooks snapped it up, and the sales surge proved that convenience would trump tradition. A single box redefined who could bake and how fast. 8th place goes to a vegetable that made its name in a Minnesota river valley, not a Parisian kitchen. In Le Sueur, glacial silt left behind by ancient ice carved out a microclimate so rich that peas grew bigger, sweeter, and starchier than anywhere else. The Minnesota Valley Canning Company saw an opportunity, canning these oversized peas and stamping them with a bold new label in 1925, Green Giant. The mascot, a towering leafy figure, was not just a cartoon. It became a symbol of place-based agriculture, turning local soil science into national branding. By 1935, the Jolly Green Giant had evolved into a household icon, his booming ho-ho-ho promising freshness straight from the Minnesota Valley. Before the age of lab-bred apples and engineered flavors, Green Giant proved that a single patch of Minnesota earth could shape the American pantry, and that a friendly giant could sell more than just vegetables. Number 7. The Honeycrisp apple did not just fall from a tree. It was coaxed into existence by 30 years of scientific patience at the University of Minnesota. In 1960, researchers began a slow, methodical process, crossbreeding apple varieties in a campus orchard and logging each attempt as MN1711. Their goal was an apple that shattered expectations for texture, with cells twice as large as the norm, bursting with juice and snap. When Honeycrisp finally hit the market in 1991, it was not just another local experiment. It became a sensation. Shoppers paid double for its explosive crunch, and growers from Washington to New Zealand lined up for the patent filed under plant patent number 7197. But even the experts were surprised. In 2004, DNA analysis revealed that the apple's supposed parents, Honeygold and Macoun, were not the real match. Its true lineage was hidden in the genetic code all along. The Honeycrisp story is not about accidental genius or marketing magic. It is about the quiet power of patient science, changing what people expect from a simple piece of fruit. Number 6. Betty Crocker was never a real person, but she became one of the most trusted women in America, second only to Eleanor Roosevelt in a 1945 Fortune magazine poll. Her signature first appeared in 1921, when Minneapolis's Washburn Crosby Company needed a friendly name to sign off on answers to baking questions from home cooks. The team chose Betty for its warmth, and Crocker to honor a retiring director. And suddenly, a fictional homemaker was born. By 1924, Betty had her own radio show on WCCO, voiced by Marjorie Hosted, who fielded kitchen dilemmas and offered reassurance through scripted advice. The persona grew into an empire, with more than 60 million cookbooks sold, hundreds of products, and a voice that shaped how Americans thought about baking and domestic expertise. Betty Crocker wasn't just a face on a box. She was a national confidant, engineered in a Minneapolis marketing office and broadcast into millions of kitchens. Before we reveal the next Minnesota invention that changed the world's pantry, take a moment to subscribe for more stories that rewrite food history. Number 5. Spam did not just roll off the line in Austin, Minnesota. It rolled into history. In 1937, Hormel faced a mountain of surplus pork shoulder and launched a $100 naming contest for their new canned meat. Actor Kenneth Dinah coined the name Spam, a blend of spiced ham, and the product hit shelves just in time for the world to change. When World War II erupted, Spam became a logistical miracle. Over 150 million pounds were shipped to feed Allied troops, fueling armies from the Pacific to the Eastern Front. Nikita Khrushchev is famously credited with saying, "Without Spam, we would not have been able to feed our army." But Spam's journey did not end with ration kits. In post-war Hawaii, it became the heart of Spam musubi, a sushi-inspired snack that is now a local staple. In South Korea, it transformed into budai jigae, or army-based stew, a dish born out of war rations that is now pure comfort food. From a Minnesota factory to kitchens around the globe, Spam turned a Depression-era meat surplus into a symbol of resilience and unexpected culinary creativity. Number 4. The Juicy Lucy is more than a burger. It is a Minneapolis legend born from a feud that still sizzles. In the late 1960s, two bars, just blocks apart, Matt's Bar and the 5-8 Club, each claimed to invent the cheese-stuffed patty, sparking a rivalry that is as much about spelling as taste. Matt's serves the Juicy Lucy, missing an I thanks to a typo that stuck, while the 5-8 Club insists on the Juicy Lucy. Order one, and you are greeted with a warning. Bite too soon and molten cheese might scorch your tongue. This is local myth-making at its finest. A barroom experiment turned tourism magnet, it draws burger pilgrims from around the world, all eager to taste a piece of Minneapolis folklore. Coming to the top 3, ranch dressing didn't start in Minnesota, but its rise to national obsession owes a debt to Midwestern logistics. Steve Henson's original recipe took root at a California dude ranch in the 1950s. But the real breakthrough came after Clorox bought Hidden Valley in 1972. By 1983, dry ranch packets rolled out of factories and into grocery aisles across the Midwest, thanks to a distribution network fine-tuned for mass-market reach. While the recipe was born out west, it was the scale and speed of Minnesota-driven food supply chains that turned ranch from a regional curiosity into America's top-selling dressing by the early 1990s, outpacing even Italian. Invention, it turns out, isn't just about flavor, it's about getting into every pantry, everywhere. Number 2, the Pillsbury Doughboy didn't just sell dough, he sold the entire idea of convenience with a giggle. Born in a Minneapolis ad agency brainstorm in 1965, Poppin' Fresh popped out of a Crescent roll can on national television, was poked in the stomach, and answered with that famous high-pitched laugh. Created by copywriter Rudy Purz and voiced by Paul Frees, the Doughboy quickly became a household name, starring in over 500 commercials by the early 2000s. His fictional family, wife Poppy, son Popper, and even a dog named Flapjack, turned refrigerated dough into a kitchen companion. In a world of faceless food brands, the Doughboy's pokeable charm made trust and warmth feel as easy as popping a can open. And finally, in first place, Malt-O-Meal did not just invent a hot cereal in Owatonna in 1919. John Campbell's Toasted Farina was a local favorite, but the real disruption came decades later, when the company flipped the cereal industry on its head with bagged knockoffs. By ditching the box, Malt-O-Meal slashed packaging costs and passed double-digit savings straight to shoppers. Suddenly, supermarket aisles had affordable alternatives that tasted just as good as the big names, sometimes better. By the 2000s, these humble bags claimed over 10% of the U.S. cereal market. Malt-O-Meal's bagged cereal revolution was not about nostalgia. It was about making breakfast cheaper, faster, and fair. In the end, a Minnesota upstart forced the giants to play by new rules. Across all 10 inventions, one pattern leaps out. Minnesota's genius isn't about culinary glamour, but about reshaping how entire societies eat, shop, and trust. The state turns humble ideas into global habits. Sometimes food history is written not by chefs, but by quiet revolutions in the heartland. Which entry surprised you most?